So if you're not, again, if you're not spending it, the question is, where did it go, right? What are you going to reuse the money for? Where else is it funneled through the company? So if you've been spending $20,000 on a certain thing every single month, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you stop spending it, what are you doing with the excess money? That's a genuine question. Well, some people say, well, I'll use it in the business. I'll use it for more lead. Where? What are you spending it on specifically? A lot of times what I have found with just business owners in general is they'll be like, hey, I cut costs. Our budget went from whatever, $30,000 a month to we're at $12,000 a month. Great. So why do you still feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck? Why do you not still have money saved up in reserves? What's going on? Well, the issue behind that is oftentimes just because we say we're spending less and we think we're doing good because we're staying on the budget, we haven't repurposed the excess money. So the way I look at it is we treat it, everything falls into the budget categories, right? Or the budget process. And if you guys have seen any of my budget videos, you know that we like Dave Ramsey's every dollar rule. And now he didn't make it up. He just coined it as the every dollar rule. But basically there's no waste when it comes to dollars. Every single dollar is assigned a certain role or responsibility. So if we move $20,000 off of the expenses, then we need to assign $20,000 somewhere else specifically. Maybe it is marketing. Maybe it's going into our reserves to help us get through the bumpy rides. Maybe it's going to our taxes so we can pay down the taxes that we owe from last year still. Does that make sense? So the idea is that we're not really just stopping using the money. We have to repurpose it. So this $300,000 or so that we found, we started going through the process of repurposing it. All right. One of the easiest ways to do that was now taking these must-haves in the company, reserves, taxes, and an account for underfunding on projects, right? And we started forcing savings every single month. What do you mean by forcing savings? We treated the transfers into these accounts as if they were business expenses. We included the transfers in the budget. Now, this isn't a one size fits all. I'm just talking you through what we had to kind of go through because of the issues that were happening. There was no plan in place to use the money somewhere else. And the reason we got to this point was a little bit of it's a cash flow management concern, really is what it was at the end of the day. And so we worked and we tried a few different things, but with the $300,000, the one thing that we know has worked in the past is we have to assign the money and just treat it as an expense. So now instead of not spending $300,000, we have $300,000 going to reserve accounts, underfunding, and to a tax account. Now, at the end of the day, we had that long conversation. It's like, hey, look, if our operations are not holding up, then we're going to have to pull directly from these accounts anyway. And you know what? You're sure right. That's exactly what we're going to have to do. You're going to have to pull from these accounts anyway. But it's much better to pull from these accounts, these reservoirs, these places where we have money specifically for this, than instead to borrow money to pay off money that you already borrowed, or rob from another one of your companies, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Keep it in the company. Have your company be self-sustaining as best as possible, right? So yeah, they might draw the money out, but you know what we're going to do? Every single month, we're going to force money over there. Every single month. So now that we've really kind of reduced costs, or let's say reallocated costs, the idea is, all right, this can help us get through quite significantly. That's $300,000 a year that now we can use to pay some of these expenses. We're just going to move them differently. We still have an issue with sales. What's going on with sales, right? Our revenue. So we take a step back now. All right, we take a step back. We're looking at sales and we're trying to identify what the issue is. Now, I mentioned it a little bit earlier in this video that it was specifically for them, it's a cash conversion cycle issue, right? Remember how some people saying, hey, the market's slow, we just can't sell it. Well, some people are selling it. They're just selling it a hell of a lot slower now. So it's not the problem of selling it. It's just like, bro, it's taking too long to sell it. I can't get my money back. So it's a cash conversion issue, okay? So we stopped and we really started breaking down what was the root cause, and that happened to be the root cause for this client too. All right, so what's the deal? What's taking so long? So what did we do? We looked at every interval of the phase and calculated the average days, okay? So from the date of purchase, because you know all that under contract stuff, that's great. Like when you're buying it from the first half, that's all great, but most of the money that you put out is refundable. And if you do lose money, oftentimes if you're doing it right, it's a nominal amount, okay? So from the date of purchase, how long did it take from purchase for the renovations to start, right? And again, this is specifically a flipping business, but how long did it take from purchase to renovations to start, all right? After that, from renovation start date, how long did it take to renovation completion date, okay? Then renovation completion date, how long to listing date? Oh, where it's on the market, it's actively for sale. Then from the listing date, how long till it goes under contract with a new buyer? And then from under contract, how long until it actually closes? And then from closing, how long until we actually receive the funds? So it sounds like a lot, okay? But we had to identify which phase is causing the major delay. So luckily, we've been tracking this for years now. So we already have a big spreadsheet that shows all the purchase date, renovation date, list date, under contract date, all that good stuff. All we had to do was add them all up, do the calculations, right? For all my Excel nerds out there, we know how to do all that pretty quickly. We get all of these day intervals, and we come to find out that the full average cash cycle is over a year long. The full cash cycle, it's close to a year, excuse me. It's like 270 some odd days, right? 270 some odd days. That's how long that it's taken to just get it from purchase all the way to sold. When we really looked at it, it was primarily one area that really held them up, which was the purchase to start of renovation. Again, highlighting the fact that a lot of it was due to them having access to lines of credit. And so they would buy these properties really cheap, just hold them, pay the holding costs, be good to go. Another one is sometimes that these projects or these properties wouldn't have enough money allocated specifically to them, so they would sit on the back end as well, okay? And so that drugged these things out. The next and the third piece to it was the construction crew, although it was effective, it was still limited. It couldn't handle everything at the same time. So we really hyper-focused in on that. Now when we looked at what can we do to speed that up, we had to look at the next phase, renovation start all the way to renovation complete. Now this was fairly decent, but it's a little bit longer than, we look for about 120 days. Okay, it's kind of what we look for at an absolute max, with our target being somewhere around 90 days or less is really the target. Okay, well, I think they were just at 95 or so they're just over. It wasn't bad, but there was definitely area for improvement there. Now they got a pretty good system for when they start the project to when they complete the project. The biggest issue again was that excess inventory that's sitting, but that's just money in the bank, or it wasn't because they were bought incorrectly, right? Which is a whole different thing. Now the days from project completion to list date, now this was the most efficient part. They were quick. Oftentimes they would list before the completion was done, right? Or they would even sell it before the completion is done. Now that was rare, but they would at least list it. Now from listing to under contract, we were able to see the trend for that one. Listing to under contract was pretty long. The days on market were well over 30 days. All right. Now, 30 days on market basically says I listed today on the best day I can, and people may come see it, but nobody puts in an offer for at least 30 days or more, right? And during a hot market, where it really is a seller's market, we're seeing days on market sometimes less than 14, sometimes less than 7. We all know that we're not in that market right now. So 30 days isn't necessarily end all be all, but but it's definitely not strong, right? And so we'd see 35 days, 37. Again, I can't remember the average. Some of these suckers were sitting on there for 65, 75 days, right? But we knew if the average was above 35, that means there's a lot kind of, pulling it one way and some pulling it the other. So we really honed in on that and started having conversations with this realtor team, this disposition team, trying to figure out what's going on there. Okay, so we focused on those two big areas: prior to the project starting, after purchase, and really days on market. Now, once we go under contract, what was interesting about this phase, as we saw, is a lot of properties went under contract and fell back out of contract. All right. When we started really pulling back the layers and we started asking, why did it fall out of contract? Why did it fall out of contract? You guys will probably know why they were falling out of contract. Well, primarily because of punch list repairs, things that weren't done correctly, right? Now, the aesthetically, it looks great, but there was something small in there that they weren't able to do. That was one of the big reasons, right? Other stuff, buyers were at fault for sure. Some of them couldn't get the funds or they just changed their mind, all that good stuff. We started seeing punch list issues, right? So now we can tie that back to the construction phase, okay? And then after we go under contract, they bounced around a little bit, but finally they got them to sell. And then our sell, from the date of sale to the date of money collected, that was fairly quick, right? So we were good there. So how do we take this 270-day average cash conversion cycle from purchase date to project being sold and getting the cash in, which is extremely long, then how do we compress it? So the two areas that we really focused on there was, again, the listing side, what's going on with our days on market, okay? We focused on the punch list items, what's causing these things to go out of contract, forcing us to put it back in, okay? And then on the front end, when we purchase something, moving forward, we only purchase it as if we have enough funds and we can get the deal out quickly. All right. So we look at that holistically. We now looked at all the costs that we can cut. Okay. We prioritized the things that we wanted to retain. And with all of those things, employees, marketing budgets being reallocated, marketing efforts being reallocated, certain employees going to part-time, certain ones of them being moved to another company or another whatever. And then we looked at the consultancy, education, masterminds, all that good stuff, and everything else you wanted to keep. We realized that we can save about $300,000, right? We take those $300,000, we then put them to use, meaning that we've now added in the expenses $300,000 that specifically goes to company reserves, company taxes, and underfunding for projects. All things that are needed in the company anyway. We just put purpose behind it. So now that we cut those costs, in order for us to still get out of the hole, right, generate more sales, we reviewed the sales and identified that the primary issue was the cash conversion cycle. How long did it take from purchase to cash collection? We dissected that sucker all the way apart, and we realized three key areas that we had to focus on improving so we can decrease the time it takes to when we can get our money to help us get out of our slump. Okay? So that's a recap there. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the idea is that we should be able to walk through this exercise anytime we get stuck somewhere. And I know you guys have been listening for a while. Maybe you guys here have already completed the coursework and everything else. You see all the lessons that we do. Everything that we talk about is fundamental. Okay? We're just really good at the fundamentals. All we have to do is go back to the fundamentals anytime our business is in one of these conditions. Period. We follow these same processes, these same concepts, these same steps, and we will always find our problem so we can brainstorm and implement a solution, and we know how to track the performance of that new solution we're trying so we can change it quickly if it's not working, and we can keep it if it is. And that's really the crux of it all. This is how we, even in this down market, we can make sure that we stay afloat. And if not, then maybe we can even, if not stay afloat, definitely stay afloat. But beyond that, we actually intend to prosper. right? Make more money in a down market. Some people say, well, not some people, but you've heard the phrase before, something out, if the sharks are out to feed or if there's blood in the water. Now I'm messing it up because now I don't forgot how it went. But basically it's saying when people are panicking, that's when you need to buy and you need to start finding opportunities to make some money. Because when everybody's excited and all the commoners are, not commoners, that's kind of messed up, but everybody's like, yay, let's go buy this new thing, like a crypto or NFTs, if y'all remember that. Once they get excited, that's the time to sell. When other people are worried, you get it at a discount. When everybody wants it, it's selling at a premium. Right now, we're in a space inside the market where real estate is hard to sell. People are very close to not getting to it. So what can we do? How can we restructure our business processes, our acquisition methods to get them cheaper, right? So we can go ahead and combat that piece in the market. That's really what it boils down to.